So I'm really not sure where to start because I have basically never done this before. But I've decided, in the interest of me learning, growing, stepping outside of my comfort zone, and practicing, I guess, some skills like talking to camera that I don't often practice. In the interest of all of those things, I've decided to start creating some content, and I'm definitely still in the initial stages of figuring out just what the heck I want to talk about. So I've been in the world of e-commerce and I guess entrepreneurship for the past 2 years or so, and I feel like I've been really slowly growing and like just building my skills and putting myself out there, getting experience, and slowly like stacking the bricks one on top of the other. And I still have a long way to go. But that being said, the other day I was thinking, how do I actively learn all the skills and gain the knowledge that I need to succeed in business? And the recommendation he gave to me was just read. Like, don't reinvent the wheel, literally learn from people who have done the things you want to do. And so that led me to my first book in a massive book list of books that I want to get through this year. And that being said, if you have any good recommendations, please let me know in the comments. Shout out to like the one person who's probably watching this. The book I have just finished is Good to Great by Jim Collins. So basically, Jim Collins and his research team start to look at qualitative and quantitative data and distill, I think it's like 5 principles or theories as to what makes good companies great. And even though, you know, a lot of the time in the world of entrepreneurship, we're not thinking about like big organizations with culture and systems and processes and tons of people involved, so that the context is a little bit different, but I feel like these principles have really helped me to think about the future of how I want to do business and the future of even the small e-commerce startups that I work with. And I just want to run through these principles and share some of my findings. So I hope you enjoy. So the first variable that makes good companies great is that they have leaders who are, as Jim Collins calls it, level 5 leaders. And these leaders embody characteristics like humility, perseverance, quiet confidence. And I found this really encouraging because in today's day and age, often the successful people that we see on social media or wherever it may be are the people who are shouting the loudest. So the natural assumption is that extroverted, super confident, well-spoken people are going to be successful, and introverted qualities are kind of a hindrance to you being in a leadership position. I would definitely call myself an introvert. I tend to think and process before I speak. And this means that I'm not always the quickest on my feet in conversation, and I'm not always the loudest person in the room. I prefer not to be the center of attention. And I've always thought that this is like counterintuitive or a disadvantage to my ambition. But understanding that the research shows that people with humility, quiet confidence, relatively introverted qualities, these are key characteristics of truly great leaders. So I think the trick is to make peace with your more introverted qualities and figure out what your strengths are within that context, and then use those strengths, because we don't have to be the loudest person, we don't have to be center of attention in order to be successful. At least that's what the research shows. So the next variable that makes good companies great is the fact that they have what Jim Collins calls a hedgehog concept. I assume he coined the phrase or the term So I'll give him credit, but it might have been someone else. I can't remember. Basically, this refers to the fact that these companies have a really good idea of what they can be best at in the world, and they pursue it relentlessly. The 3 questions that inform the hedgehog concept are: 1, what am I passionate about? 2, what are my economic drivers? And 3, what can I be the best in the world at, or what can I excel at? And I think the hedgehog concept can really help you when you're thinking about finding a niche. Especially in e-commerce, it's about figuring out who you're helping, how you're helping, and then how can you be the best person in the market offering that solution so that you can capture your share of the market. The hedgehog concept can also help when it comes to thinking about like long-term strategy, new channels for growth, product launches. Do these things fit into the lane of the hedgehog concept, where the questions of, will this serve our economic driver? Is it something that we can be the best at? And is it something that we're passionate about? Okay, so the 3rd principle in Good to Great is first who, then what. Great companies prioritize getting the right people on board and then thinking about strategy, direction, and vision, as opposed to the inverse of that, which is first figuring out a direction and a vision, and then like getting people to sign into that and to align to that. When I first started working in this space, the idea of not having a super clear direction and strategy and organization and all the processes in place to feed into that direction, it freaked me out. But the reality is that when you've got limited resources, sometimes you just need to get in the mud and be in the business versus thinking about the on the business side of things. Knowing this gave me a lot of peace, because I realized that it's not necessarily about the vision and the strategy. And the research that they did showed that having a clear vision and a clear strategy was not actually a differentiating factor in moving businesses from good to great. People are the differentiating factor. So I know that as we build our team, finding people who are proactive, willing to learn, strong communicators, like taking initiative, all of those things are probably more important than having like an amazing strategy document and direction for where we're going. Because with the right people on board, we can adapt, come up with ideas, and figure out the path forward. And on a side note, what's been really interesting in the past couple years of working in this space is realizing how important soft skills are. When I left university, however long ago it was, 5 years ago, I judged myself and in a way judged others on like the result that you got on one exam, or the amount of information that I could stuff into my head to like recall and recite in a paper or an essay. And what's come to light, what I've realized, is that being a good communicator, being a good listener, being proactive and taking initiative, not just waiting for people to tell you what to do, those are the best skills that you can have. And no one tells you this stuff. Okay, on to the next one. Next variable or principle is confronting the brutal facts. Successful companies confront the brutal facts of their current reality, and they're willing to face the truth, even if it is uncomfortable and harsh. And then they use these facts to make decisions about the way forward. I think this really speaks to looking at the data, looking at the reality of the situation, and being brutally honest with yourself and with others about what's actually going on. Like, if things are not working, there's no use pretending. It's about finding a solution. And this applies to your personal life as well. Everyone goes through shit. They go through hardship, suffering, you name it. But the quicker that we are able to accept the facts of reality and not resist suffering, but rather find a solution to dealing with it, the less we will suffer. And this segues really nicely into one of Jim Collins' next findings, which is around the Stockdale paradox. So this paradox is all about accepting the brutal facts of reality, yet remaining optimistic. It's all about striking the balance between realism and optimism, and having unwavering faith in the future or the potential of something, but also not fooling yourself that things are better than they are in the present. The next variable or principle is the flywheel effect. Great companies build momentum through small, consistent efforts over time, and these cumulative efforts propel the business into success. So it's like a snowball effect. Success doesn't happen overnight, and the overnight successes that we see, often we miss the first however many months or years or even decades that it took to build that momentum to get them to the point that we now think, oh wow, they're an overnight success. In the startup world, it can often feel like the stuff you're doing every single day isn't always moving the needle in a big way as much as some other activities may, but it's encouraging because this kind of consistency does build over time. And if you can just keep at something for weeks, months, years, and assuming you're aligned to your hedgehog concept, that momentum will build over time. Except I must say that in today's day and age, there maybe is a potential for overnight success with TikTok, but I can imagine that it must be a pretty shitty situation if you haven't warmed yourself up to the idea and grown relatively organically. You suddenly get yourself thrust into this spotlight that you're probably not prepared for. So overnight successes are in reality probably not that much fun, in my opinion. And this flywheel effect is dependent on the next variable that Jim Collins talks about, which is a culture of discipline. It's having the discipline to do what needs to be done to build the momentum that will lead to the snowball flywheel effect. I've been working for a year on some of these e-com businesses. I've seen the flywheel effect start to take shape in a small way. It's about waking up every single day and doing what needs to be done, however small, and those small actions add up and start to accelerate the business in a way that you couldn't have foreseen had you not taken those steps. And the last thing is technology as an accelerator, not as a driver. So great companies have their hedgehog concept, they know the direction they're going in, and they use technology to accelerate versus relying 100% on technology as a key driver in their business. So they understand that technology alone cannot cause greatness. It needs to be used to amplify whatever the business is already doing that they're good at. This is an interesting one, especially considering the book was written 20 years ago, and technology has accelerated drastically since then, but there is always the new something that people are raving about. I feel like the mantra for 2023 should be something like, if you're not using AI in your business, it's going to fall into oblivion, which probably is kind of true. You should at least be using ChatGPT for something. But that being said, it's not about using AI technology as a driver. It's about using it to fuel and streamline and amplify what you're already doing. So figure out what you're good at and then make it better with technology. So those are the 6 variables that are unpacked in this book, and some of my thoughts and a few little ramblings on each one of those. I hope you enjoyed and that I did some justice to the book, because it is a great book and easy to read, easy to understand, and I feel like the concepts carry through and they will start to make more sense to me the more I get into this and the more my business grows. If you're still here, then hi, and I'm thanks for being here. I'm going to be putting out a bit more content and just starting to see what I like, what other people like, and I'll go from there. But if you're interested in following my journey a little bit more, please hit subscribe. I'm new to this. Maybe share with a friend, leave a nice comment so I feel encouraged, and have a great day.